The starship Hope cut through the darkness of space, its engines glowing blue against the black. Inside, Tae-ho Kim adjusted his formal uniform one last time before the big meeting. As Earth's top diplomat, today was the most important day of his life and perhaps the most important day in human history. "Nervous?" asked Commander Ji-woo Park, standing tall in her crisp military uniform. The small collection of medals on her chest showed her years of service to the United Earth Defense Force. "Of course," Tae-ho said with a small smile. "We're about to meet aliens for the first time." Ji-woo nodded and looked out the viewport at the massive ring-shaped station where the meeting would take place. The Galactic Confederation had contacted Earth 6 months ago after detecting humanity's first faster-than-light jump. Now, humanity was about to join the community of spacefaring species. "Remember the plan," Ji-woo said. "Be friendly, be open, but don't show all our cards." Tae-ho nodded. Earth's leaders had decided that while they wanted peace, they also needed to be careful. Humans had a long history of war, and that made them cautious. The Hope docked with a gentle bump. Tae-ho took a deep breath as the airlock door opened. On the other side stood creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some had 4 arms, others had skin that changed colors, and one even floated above the ground. At the center stood a tall, thin being, with silver skin and large dark eyes. "Welcome, humans," the silver being said in perfect English. "I am Supreme Chancellor Zelthir. We have been watching your world for some time." Tae-ho stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for inviting us, Chancellor. I am Tae-ho Kim, representing the United Earth government. And I am Commander Ji-woo Park of the United Earth Defense Force," Ji-woo added, standing straight and proud. Zelthir's large eyes blinked slowly. "A military officer? Interesting choice for a diplomatic mission. On Earth, we believe in showing both our wish for peace and our ability to defend ourselves," Tae-ho explained smoothly. The aliens led them through wide hallways filled with technology that made Earth's best look like toys. Ji-woo noticed that many of the aliens were looking at the humans with something like amusement. In the main council chamber, representatives from 20 different species sat in a large circle. Tae-ho and Ji-woo were given seats at the bottom of the circle, clearly marking them as newcomers with the lowest status. "The Galactic Confederation has existed for over 10,000 years, Zelthir explained. "We work together for peace, trade, and shared knowledge. We welcome Earth as a potential junior member." Tae-ho smiled politely. "We're honored. Earth is eager to learn and contribute." A squid-like alien with glowing spots spoke next. "We have reviewed your technological level. Your ships are quite basic." Ji-woo felt her face grow warm. The Hope was Earth's pride, their newest and best ship. To hear it called basic stung. "We've only had faster-than-light travel for 15 years, Tae-ho explained. "Most species take at least 500 years to develop it after achieving spaceflight," said another alien with feathers covering its body. "You humans are rushed. Or impatient," added another. Zelthir raised a hand for quiet. "What my colleagues mean is that your species seems to develop military technology very quickly. We find this concerning." Ji-woo leaned forward. "Earth has had many conflicts in its history. We learn to innovate quickly when needed." "Yes, we've studied your history," Zelthir said. "So much fighting among yourselves. Most species outgrow such behavior before reaching the stars." The meeting continued for hours. The aliens asked many questions about Earth's governments, resources, and military. Tae-ho answered carefully, trying to present humans in the best light. During a break, Ji-woo pulled Tae-ho aside. "They're looking down on us," she whispered. "I know," Tae-ho replied, "but maybe that's not bad. Let them underestimate us." When the meeting resumed, a new alien entered the chamber. This one moved quickly, its red scales flashing with apparent distress. "Chancellor, we have received urgent news," it said. "The Voidborn have destroyed another outer colony." The chamber erupted in worried voices. Tae-ho and Ji-woo exchanged confused looks. "Who are the Voidborn?" Tae-ho asked. Zelthir's silver face seemed to darken. A species from beyond the edge of our known space. They arrived 50 years ago and have been attacking our borders ever since. They consume resources, entire planets if we let them. And you can't stop them? Jiwoo asked, her military mind already working. We fight them back. When we can, said a rock-like alien. But they are relentless. They have no interest in talk or trade, they only take. The red-scaled messenger spoke again. The latest reports suggest they may be changing course. Our tracking systems show them moving toward Sector 37G. Zelther looked at the humans with concern. That is the sector containing your solar system. Jiwoo felt her blood run cold. They're heading toward Earth? It appears so, Zelther said. They may have detected your faster-than-light experiments. New technology tends to attract them. Taiho stood up. Then we need to return home immediately to prepare. Prepare? A bird-like alien laughed. Your ships would be no match for even a small void-born raiding party. Perhaps the Confederation could offer protection for certain trade agreements. Of course. Jiwoo's eyes narrowed. Politics, even in space. We appreciate the offer, Taiho said diplomatically, but Earth will defend itself. With what? Asked Zelther. Your ships are tiny compared to ours, and ours are barely effective against the Voidborn. Jiwoo and Taiho shared a look. Neither spoke the words they were thinking. Project Titan. We have our ways, Jiwoo said simply. The return journey to Earth was tense. As soon as they were alone on the Hope, Taiho turned to Jiwoo. We need to tell the Council about the Voidborn threat. Jiwoo nodded, looking out at the stars. And maybe it's time to tell them about Project Titan. You think we're ready? Taiho asked. The project was supposed to be our last resort. If these Voidborn are as dangerous as the Confederation says, we might not have a choice. Jiwoo pulled up a secure communication line to Earth. The Confederation thinks we're weak because our ships are small. They don't understand how humans think. No, Taiho agreed with a grim smile. They don't understand that when humans feel threatened, we don't just build bigger ships. We build the biggest ship possible, Jiwoo finished. The screen lit up as Earth responded to their call. Admiral Lee, this is Commander Park. We need to talk about Project Titan. It's time. As the Hope raced back to Earth, neither Taiho nor Jiwoo could have known that humanity was about to shock the entire galaxy. The aliens thought humans were primitive newcomers to space. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The United Earth Security Council chamber was silent as Admiral Yoonha Lee stood before the large round table. The room was deep underground, one of the most secure places on the planet. On the walls, screens showed images of Mars, but not Mars, as most people knew it. For 50 years we have been working on Project Titan, Admiral Lee said, her voice calm but strong. We have been hollowing out Mars, turning the entire planet into a warship. The council members looked at the images with wide eyes. President Han of the United Earth government leaned forward. Admiral Taiho and Commander Park have informed us about the Voidborn threat. How soon can Project Titan be ready? Admiral Lee touched a control panel, and new images appeared. They showed the inside of Mars, vast chambers, huge engines, and weapons larger than cities. We are at 92% completion, she said. The main systems are working, the engines can move the planet. The outer weapons are ready. We need 2 more weeks for full combat readiness. Taiho, who sat near the back of the room, stood up. The Confederation doesn't know about Project Titan. They think we are weak. That could be useful. Commander Jiwoo Park nodded in agreement. If the Voidborn are as dangerous as the Confederation says, we should keep Titan secret until we need it. A door opened, and Lieutenant Do-hyun Kang hurried in. As the head of Earth Intelligence, he rarely attended these meetings in person. His face was serious. I have new information about the Voidborn, he said, plugging a data device into the table. A 3-dimensional map of the solar system appeared above the table. Red dots moved toward Earth. Our deep space sensors have detected them. They're coming faster than we thought. They will reach our system in 1 week, not 3 as we first believed. The room filled with worried voices. President Han raised his hand for quiet. Admiral Lee, can Project Titan be ready in 1 week? The Admiral's face was grim. We can have it at 95% capacity. Not perfect, but ready to fight. The Confederation offered help, said one council member. Should we accept? Taiho shook his head. Their help would come with a price. They would want control over Earth's resources, our technology, and based on what we saw, their ships aren't much better against the Voidborn than what we have now. Except for Titan, Jiwoo added. President Han stood up. His decision was made. Admiral Lee, launch Project Titan. Lieutenant Kang, keep tracking the Voidborn. Commander Park, you will be Titan's captain. Jiwoo looked surprised. Sir, you've been training. For 5 years, Admiral Lee said. You know Titan better than anyone except me. What about the Confederation? Taiho asked. Should we tell them about Titan? President Han thought for a moment. No, not yet. Let them think we're defenseless. If the Voidborn defeat us, the Confederation needs to be ready. If we defeat the Voidborn, the Confederation will see that humans are not to be underestimated. 3 days later, Jiwoo stood on the bridge of Project Titan. It didn't look like a normal ship bridge. It was huge, the size of a large building, with hundreds of control stations. The walls were thick red stone, actual Martian rock that had been kept as part of the structure. Status report, Jiwoo ordered. Her second-in-command, Captain Minho Sung, checked his screens. All systems at 85% and rising. Crew is at 75% of planned strength. Jiwoo nodded. Project Titan had been built to house millions. It wasn't just a warship. It was a lifeboat for humanity if Earth ever became uninhabitable. Right now they had just over 2 million people on board. Soldiers, engineers, doctors, and even families of the crew. Engine status? She asked. Main engines at 90% power, reported Chief Engineer Sung Ho Yoon from his station. We can move the planet, but not at full speed yet. Jiwoo looked at the main screen, which showed Earth floating in the blackness of space. Beautiful and fragile. Soon, that view would change as Titan, as Mars, moved for the first time in billions of years. On Earth, Admiral Lee stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center. Around her, officers monitored the solar system's defense grid, satellites, space stations, and the 100 ships of Earth's fleet. It was a powerful force by human standards, but tiny compared to what was coming. Admiral, said a young officer, we're receiving a message from the Confederation. A screen lit up, showing the silver face of Chancellor Zelthir. Behind him stood several other alien leaders, including a blue-skinned alien named Hyunwoo Choi, who had been named the Confederation ambassador to Earth. Earth leaders, Zelthir said. Our deep space sensors show the Voidborn fleet is larger than we first thought. We are sending ships to help defend your world. Admiral Lee bowed slightly. We appreciate your assistance, Chancellor. Our ships will arrive in 4 days. Zelthir continued. Try to hold out until then. Your smaller vessels should focus on evacuation rather than fighting. Admiral Lee's face remained calm, but her eyes narrowed slightly. We will consider your advice, Chancellor. After the call ended, Lieutenant Kang approached her. They still think we're helpless. Good, Admiral Lee said. The Voidborn will think the same. Back on Titan, Jiwoo received the order she had been waiting for. President Han's voice came through clearly. Commander Park, you are authorized to launch Project Titan. May it protect Earth and all humanity. Jiwoo took a deep breath and pressed her hand against the command console. All stations prepare for launch. Begin engine ignition sequence. Deep inside Mars, enormous engines larger than mountains roared to life. On the surface, cracks appeared, as sections of the planet's crust shifted, revealing weapon ports and thruster nozzles. Dust storms raged across the red planet as it prepared to move for the first time. In space, observers watched in awe as Mars began to change. The red planet seemed to come alive, glowing with power as systems activated. On Titan's bridge, Jiwoo gave the final command. Full power to main engines. Break orbit. The largest ship ever built by any species in the known galaxy began to move. Mars, now Titan, left its ancient orbit, heading toward the edge of the solar system where the Voidborn would soon arrive. On Earth, Admiral Lee watched the massive planet ship depart. Beside her, Taiho Kim stood in silence. "Will it be enough?" Taiho asked quietly. Admiral Lee's face was determined. "It has to be. The Voidborn think they're attacking a young, weak species. They're about to learn that humans don't build ships like other species. We build them the size of planets." As Titan moved away from its old orbit, the solar system itself seemed to hold its breath. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. The edge of the solar system was quiet. Then, like black ink spreading across the stars, the Voidborn fleet appeared. Thousands of ships, from small fighters to massive destroyers, blocked the light from distant suns. At the center of the fleet was a ship larger than any human vessel, though still tiny compared to Titan. On Earth's command center, screens lit up with warnings. Lieutenant Do-Yun Kang watched as the enemy arrived in numbers far greater than expected. "Admiral," he said to Admiral Lee, "there are over 5,000 Voidborn ships. That's 10 times what the Confederation warned us about." Admiral Lee's face remained calm, though her eyes showed concern. "Send the alert to all Earth defenses and to Titan. The Voidborn are here." From the lead Voidborn ship, a message was broadcast to Earth. The creature on the screen was dark, with eyes that glowed red. Its voice was deep and cold. "People of Earth," it said in rough English, "I am Fleet Commander Zrix of the Voidborn Collective. Your world has resources we need. Surrender now and some of you will live as our workers. Fight, and all will die." In the command center, Taiho Kim stood beside Admiral Lee. "They learned our language quickly. They've had practice with other worlds," said Hyunwoo Choi, the Confederation ambassador who had arrived just days before. "The Voidborn always offer the same choice, surrender or death." Admiral Lee stepped forward. "This is Admiral Yunha Lee of Earth. We reject your demands. Earth will not surrender." The Voidborn commander made a sound like cold laughter. "Then you will die. Your ships are few and weak. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours." The transmission ended. Admiral Lee turned to her officers. "All Earth Defense Forces battle stations, prepare for their approach." The Voidborn wasted no time. Their smaller ships sped ahead, racing toward the outer planets. Jupiter's moon bases fired their weapons, but they were quickly overwhelmed. The settlements on Saturn's moons sent desperate calls for help before going silent. Earth's fleet moved to defend, but they were outnumbered. Ships exploded in bright flashes as Voidborn weapons tore through them. In the command center, tension grew with each lost ship. Ambassador Hyunwoo Choi looked grim. "The Confederation fleet is still 3 days away. I fear they will arrive too late." Admiral Lee watched the battle displays with narrowed eyes. "We just need to hold them off a little longer." "For what?" asked Hyunwoo. "Your brave fleet is being destroyed." Admiral Lee did not answer. Instead, she touched her communication panel. "Titan, this is Earth Command. The enemy is fully engaged. They have committed their forces. They believe our fleet is all we have." On the bridge of Titan, Commander Jiwoo Park received the message. Around her, the crew worked at their stations, watching as Earth's fleet fought and died against the overwhelming enemy force. "It's time," Jiwoo said. "All stations, battle positions. Power up all weapon systems. Bring Titan to full combat readiness." Captain Minho Sung moved to her side. "The Voidborn don't know we exist. Their scanners show Mars as just an empty planet in an unusual orbit." "That advantage won't last long," Jiwoo replied. "Engineer Yoon, status of the main weapons." Chief Engineer Sung-ho's voice came through the speakers. "All systems ready, Commander. The planet crackers are at full power." Jiwoo took a deep breath. "Set course directly for the main Voidborn fleet. Maximum speed. Let's show them what humans can build." Titan accelerated, its massive engines pushing the planet ship faster than any object its size had ever moved before. The remaining human fleet received coded orders and began to pull back, creating a path for Titan. On the main Voidborn ship, alarms sounded. Fleet Commander Zrix turned to his sensors officer. "What is that?" Unknown, Commander. It appears to be a planet moving toward us. Impossible, Srix growled. No species can move planets. Back on Earth, Admiral Lee watched as Titan approached the enemy fleet. Beside her, Ambassador Hyunwoo's eyes grew wide. What is that? He asked in shock. Is that Mars? Admiral Lee nodded. That is Project Titan, humanity's answer to existential threats. You turned a planet into a weapon? Hyunwoo could barely speak. Not even the Confederation has attempted such a thing. Humans think differently, Taeho said simply. When our survival is threatened, we don't limit our imagination. On Titan's bridge, Jiwoo watched as they closed in on the enemy. The Voidborn. Ships were beginning to react, turning to face this new threat. They're confused, Captain Minho reported. Their sensors can't make sense of what we are. Let's help them understand, Jiwoo said. All weapons, target the nearest Voidborn ships. Fire when ready. Across the surface of Titan, weapon ports opened. Cannons the size of mountains emerged from the red surface. Energy built up, glowing brightly against the darkness of space. Fire, Jiwoo ordered. Titan's weapons released their power. Beams of energy lanced out, each one powerful enough to destroy a normal battleship. The first volley hit 20 Voidborn ships, vaporizing them instantly. In Earth's command center, a cheer went up. Admiral Lee allowed herself a small smile. That's just the beginning, she said. The Voidborn recovered quickly from their surprise. Hundreds of ships turned toward Titan, firing their weapons at the planet ship. Explosions bloomed across Titan's surface as the attacks hit. On the bridge, Jiwoo held tight to her command console as the ship shook. Damage report. Surface impacts only, Engineer Sung-ho reported. Our outer shields are holding. The planet's mass is absorbing the rest. Return fire. All batteries. Titan fired again, destroying dozens more enemy ships. The battle grew fierce. As the Voidborn concentrated their attack on this unexpected threat, Fleet Commander Srix watched in growing anger. What kind of species builds weapons this size? Focus all fire on that planet ship. The Voidborn's largest vessels moved into position, firing weapons that could tear smaller ships in half. Against Titan, they left craters and smoking holes. But the planet ship kept coming. Inside Titan, some sections lost power. Emergency teams rushed to repair damage. Deep inside the planet core, engineers worked frantically to maintain the massive engines. We're taking heavy damage on the northern hemisphere, Captain Minho reported. Jiwoo studied the tactical display. Rotate Titan, bring our fresh armor to bear and target their command ship. The planet ship slowly turned, bringing undamaged weapons to face the enemy. Titan fired again, and this time the beams converged on the Voidborn flagship. The massive, alien vessel's shields flared brightly, then failed. In the Earth Command Center, they watched as the Voidborn flagship exploded. Another cheer rose from the staff, but Admiral Lee's expression remained serious. It's not over yet. Look. On the Y display, the remaining Voidborn ships were gathering, forming a new pattern. They're preparing for a final assault, Lieutenant Do-yoon said. All ships concentrating their fire on one point of Titan. Admiral Lee opened a channel to Titan. Commander Park, be advised. The enemy is concentrating for a breakthrough attempt. Sector 7 of your outer hull. On Titan's bridge, Jiwoo received the warning. Understood, Admiral, we're ready. She turned to her crew. Prepare the core weapon. It's time to end this. On Titan's bridge, Commander Jiwoo Park stood tall despite the pain from a cut on her forehead. The bridge shook as Voidborn weapons hammered at one spot on the planet ship's surface. Warning lights flashed across control panels. They're trying to break through to our core, Captain Minho reported. His uniform was torn and smoke filled parts of the bridge. Sector 7 shields are at 30% and falling. Jiwoo studied the tactical display. The remaining Voidborn ships, still over 1,000, had formed a tight formation. All their weapons focused on a single point. They've figured out our weakness, she said. If they break through to the main power core, they could destroy us from within. She touched her communication panel. Engineer Yoon, status of the core weapon? Chief Engineer Sung Ho's voice came through with static. Power at 85% and rising, Commander. 5 more minutes until ready. Jiwoo frowned. We might not have 5 minutes. Another explosion rocked the bridge. Status of Sector 7, shields at 18%, Minho answered. Outer hull beginning to crack. Jiwoo made her decision. Divert power from the engines to the shields. We don't need to move fast now. We need to survive long enough to use the core weapon. On Earth, Admiral Lee watched the battle with growing concern. Lieutenant Do-yeon monitored the incoming data. Titan's shields are failing in one sector, he reported. The Voidborn are concentrating everything they have on that spot. Ambassador Hyunwoo stepped closer to the display. Even a planet ship has limits. The Voidborn are good at finding weaknesses. Titan just needs to hold out a little longer, Admiral Lee said. She opened a channel. Commander Park, Earth's remaining fleet is moving to support you. They'll try to draw some fire away from Sector 7. The small Earth ships, though badly damaged from the earlier fighting, changed course. They flew toward the Voidborn fleet, firing their weapons to distract the enemy. On the Voidborn command ship, the new leader watched with cold anger. Ignore the small ships. Keep all weapons on the planet ship's weak point. The Voidborn ships continued their assault on Titan. Beams of energy and explosive projectiles hammered at the same spot on the red surface. Slowly, a deep crater formed. Inside Titan, emergency teams rushed to the damaged areas. Walls cracked and some sections lost air. Warning sirens blared throughout the massive structure. Sector 7 shields failing, Minho reported. Hull breach. In 3 minutes at this rate. Jiwoo's mind raced. They needed more time. Rotate Titan. Try to move Sector 7 away from their line of fire. The planet's rotation is too slow, Minho said. It won't be enough. Just then, a new voice came over the communication system. Titan, this is Earth Fleet Captain Jaewon-oh. My ships will cover your weak spot. Just give us the word. Jiwoo saw the small fleet of Earth ships positioning themselves between Titan and the Voidborn. Captain O, that's suicide. Maybe so, Commander, came the calm reply. But if Titan falls, Earth falls. We'll buy you the time you need. Before Jiwoo could respond, the Earth ships moved into the line of fire. The Voidborn weapons that were targeting Titan's weak point now hit the small human vessels. One by one, they exploded in bright flashes of light. But they had done their job. On Titan's bridge, Engineer Sung Ho's voice came through clearly. Core weapon at full power, Commander. Ready to fire. Jiwoo looked at the tactical display. Captain O's sacrifice had given them the time they needed. All crew brace for core weapon activation. This will drain our main power for several minutes. She pressed her hand against the special control panel that required DNA confirmation. Core weapon activated. Target, center of Voidborn fleet formation. Deep inside Titan, at the very heart of what was once Mars, the core weapon powered up. It was unlike any weapon humans had built before, a gravity manipulator that could create a temporary controlled black hole. Energy surged through the planet ship. Lights dimmed as power was redirected to the core. A beam of dark energy shot out from Titan, striking the space in the middle of the Voidborn fleet. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the stars behind the Voidborn ships began to distort. Space itself twisted as the gravity weapon took effect. A small dark sphere appeared, a singularity, pulling everything toward it. The Voidborn ships closest to it were the first to go. Unable to escape the growing gravitational pull, they were stretched and crushed as they fell into the artificial black hole. Others tried to flee, but were caught in the pull. On Earth's command center, they watched in awe as the Voidborn fleet was devoured by the singularity. By the stars, Ambassador Hyunwoo whispered. You created a black hole as a weapon? A temporary one, Admiral Lee explained. It will collapse in minutes, but long enough to do its job. A new alert sounded. Lieutenant Do-hyun looked up in surprise. Admiral, we're detecting multiple ships entering the system. It's the Confederation fleet. On the main screen, dozens of sleek alien ships appeared, led by a massive vessel. The face of Supreme Chancellor Zelthir appeared on the communication screen. Earth Command, this is the Confederation Relief Force. We have arrived to... His voice trailed off as he saw the battle scene. What have you done? Admiral Lee stood tall. We defended ourselves, Chancellor. The Void-born fleet has been neutralized. The screen showed the last of the Void-born ships disappearing into the singularity. Then, as predicted, the black hole itself began to shrink, collapsing as the power that created it faded. Impossible, Zelthir said. No species has ever defeated a Void-born fleet of that size. And what is that? He pointed to Titan. That, said Taiho Kim, stepping forward, is humanity's contribution to galactic defense. Project Titan. 3 days later, the Galactic Confederation held an emergency session. Representatives from all member species gathered to discuss what had happened in the Earth system. Taiho Kim stood before them, no longer at the lowest position in the chamber. You thought humans primitive because we haven't been among the stars as long as you, Taiho said. But we survived on a world where conflict shaped our thinking. We learned to plan for the worst possible threats. Supreme Chancellor Zelthir rose from his seat. The Confederation has existed for 10,000 years. In all that time, no species has ever thought to transform a planet into a defensive weapon. He paused. It is both terrifying and impressive. A vote was taken. Earth would not join as a junior member as originally offered. Instead, humanity would enter the Confederation as a full partner, with equal standing to species that had been spacefaring for millennia. 3 years later, a ceremony was held in Earth orbit. A new ship was being commissioned, Project Colossus. Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, had been transformed into an even bigger warship than Titan. Admiral Yunha Lee would command it. On the observation deck, Jiwoo Park, now wearing an admiral's uniform, stood beside Taiho Kim. They watched as Jupiter, now Colossus, moved slowly from its old orbit, massive engines glowing. Do you ever wonder if we've gone too far? Taiho asked quietly. The Confederation species are both impressed and afraid of us now. Jiwoo looked out at the stars. The universe is vast and unknown. The Voidborn were just one threat. Being prepared isn't just human nature, it's how we survive. In the distance, Jupiter's great red spot, now a massive weapon port, gleamed in the sunlight. The only species to build planet-sized warships had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. And somewhere beyond known space, something was stirring, something that had sent the Voidborn as mere scouts. But this time, humanity would be ready.